Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Tara Stevenson. I serve as the interim vice president of student affairs here at Flagler College. We apologize, had a little bit of technical difficulty, so now we're joining you. I feel like we need some coffee sitting around here, but this is our kickoff session for our summer virtual sessions. We wanted to make sure that our families and our students got a chance to hear from us, connect with us, hear some information that's really important to them early in the summer. This by no means takes the place of Roar Up, but it's kind of going side by side with it. So tonight's topic, we're going to be chatting with Residence Life, what living on campus looks all about. We will have the Q&A available and we'll hopefully be able to answer some of those questions. So make sure that you type those out. If we don't get to all of those tonight, then we'll make sure that we give you the contact information to reach out to us. But let's go ahead and meet our team that's joining us tonight.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Rashay Carter. I'm the Assistant Director for Residence Life.
And hello, everyone. My name is Don Garbaccio. I'm the Director for Residence Life.
All right, so I am super excited to start this off. We know that our families, mainly our students, want to know what living is going to be like at Flagler, and then we jump into, everything else, but we start the shopping and the prepping and all the fun stuff over the summer. But our students should have received some really important information already today. So do you want to share what they can expect?
Yeah, so your child received one of two emails today. If they have gone in and selected their room already, they have received the move-in schedule. And so the exact date and time that they'll move in. Move-in is Friday, August 23rd. And we do it by slot. And so depending on where they live is what time they'll move in. If your student has not yet selected their housing or they're still in the process of applying for housing, they received a reminder email today on exactly how to go in, select their room, and then weekly we'll be sending out that move-in email. And so if they did not receive the email today and they select their housing at some point this week, then they'll receive that email next week. And if they have any questions about, I selected this room, where exactly does this fall under, or what time? We're more than happy to help answer those questions. If they have any questions about selecting housing, and they just need some more clarification, we're also happy to help walk them through it either via email or via phone call.
So it went to their Flagler email, correct? And it went to the students' Flagler email. And so we sent also a newsletter with how to access Flagler email for the students who are still waiting to get into that and begin checking that. So rooms have been either selected or they've been assigned or somehow they're magically appearing or they're not appearing. So if you guys could dive into what is the room selection process? What does that look like here at Flagler?
Yeah. So we have what's called our housing day. And so that's an exciting time on campus. It starts in March. So any student, incoming or returner who has applied for housing for the following year, they can start selecting their rooms in March. And so as we continue to see where our buildings fill up, we start to look at the areas in which students are still requesting to live. And so, for example, some of our more popular buildings do fill up a little quicker than others. And that's a great opportunity for Rashay and I to work with those students who maybe deposited a little later, filled out their applications a little later, to find a community in a different residence hall. I know the big one everyone loves to live in is Ponce, but I can tell you from experience, I lived in Lewis and it was an absolutely amazing experience for me my first year. I love the community I built in that building. Each hall does have its own perks. So for example, Lewis House does have a community kitchen on the third floor, which is unique to our first year residence halls. It's the only one with it. Our Cedar provides a nice game room on the first floor. And then Ponce provides, that historic aspect of living on campus. The FEC towers are also open to our first year students. I also lived in the FEC towers as a student here, and I loved the views that I had from there. I had a great room with a corner view of downtown. And so it was beautiful, especially during the sunsets and sunrises, to see the sky light up and see the city in the background. But really, we want to make sure that wherever you select your housing, that you're going to have a great experience there. There's not one building that defines a live-on experience here at Flagler. Each one is unique in its own way and will build a different community. And Rashay works really hard with our RAs and our RHA, which I'll let her talk about, to help build that community when you're living there.
Thank you. So, like he said, for our resident assistants, or which are our RAs, they work really hard, training during the summer, to make sure that they're ready to work with the students. So one of the things that we train them on is mediation. So learning how to work with those residents when they do have concerns. Maybe they may have some roommate disagreements or some suite mate disagreements, but they are trained to help them navigate through those situations. And then to also utilize our database that we have to keep track of any agreements that they may have, or how they want to have the room. They want to have the AC at a certain level, or if they want the lights off at a certain time. So they're trained on how to work with the residents on those situations. And then also just building community, like Don said, hosting events and getting them out of their room, getting them out around on campus, exploring the West Lawn, going down to the docks. So the RAs are well trained on how to help them explore and really have that great college experience, that first year experience. And then RHA is Residence Hall Association. So that is student led completely. So their sole purpose is to get the students engaged, to get the students involved, and they're an advocate for us, our students who live on campus. It kind of sounds like SGA, but it's strictly for our students that live in the residence halls.
All right, so y'all dropped a whole lot of really good information there that we need to dive a little bit more into.
Okay.
So everything from the specific halls and how they're all unique and what they offer, roommate discussions, which one of our other sessions later on in the summer is just going to be like how to have those difficult conversations with students and family members when they do want to bring some of those woes over the phone. We talked about events and programming and kind of like what a room looks like, what's in a room. So let's start with the basic first off. What should our families expect when they walk into a room?
So when you walk into the room, everyone will definitely have a bed. So it'll be a twin XL bed. And then everyone will have either a wardrobe or a closet. It just depends on what residence hall you're in and what that room dynamics is. And then also there will be a micro fridge for every 2 residents. So if you're in a quad, there will be 2 micro fridges. And then if you're in like a double, there will be 1. A triple will be 2, just like a quad. So you'll also have a desk, and everyone will also have a chair. And then, of course, the bathroom will be in all of the residence halls. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything.
Just address it.
Oh, yes, and then a dresser.
All right. Now, one of the unique things is that some of our buildings, the rooms are very similar. In Ponce Hall, we can't say the same thing. So do you want to talk a little bit, Don, about like what that is like?
Yeah, so because Ponce is unique in the way that it was the historic hotel prior, each room is set up a little different. No 2 are identical or the same size, the same layout. And so what we do a few things. One, we determine, okay, how many people can comfortably live in this space? And so we're not going to put 4 people in a room that could only fit 2 people. But if you're in a larger room, you may have 3 or 4 people in that room. We also do walkthroughs to determine, should this space be bunked? So should they have bunk beds to best utilize the space, or should the beds be separate and put the dressers under the beds and everything to create more of that, I don't want to live in a bunk bed, I want to live sort of on my own situation. Residents are free to utilize our facilities department and our maintenance requests to bunk beds. If they walk in and they're like, you know what, we'd rather have the extra floor space, we're going to bunk our beds, or to unbunk them. We do recommend waiting until you're here and working with your roommate to determine, do we want to unbunk the beds? Do we want to bunk them? How can we best utilize this space? Ponce Hall is also unique in that some rooms have their own bathroom for the room, and then some are suited with other rooms. And so what we mean by suited is it may be Rashay and I in a room, and we share a bathroom with Tara. We do have it so there's no more than 6 people to a bathroom, and so the most that someone would share with would be 5 other people, but on average, it's 3 to 4 people that share a bathroom in a suited room. If you want to know if you are in a suited room or not, you go to your eRes Life profile, housing overview, and if it says room 333-335, that's a suited room. If it just says 333, then it's a room with its own bathroom. That's the easiest way to determine if it's a suited bathroom or not. If it is suited, you'll also see under roommates, suite mates, so you can see who you're sharing the bathroom with, and you can start that communication. And then the other great thing about Ponce that's unique about it is since these rooms are all different sizes, all different layouts, everyone is going to have a unique experience. And so when we talk about that Flagler experience, no two people living in Ponce will have the same experience because of the way the rooms are laid out.
I always love, I say it every year, walking through on move-in day because all the rooms are different and I like to see how everybody lays them out. But you did drop some really good nuggets there because many of our family members want to know what the dimensions of the rooms are, how much space is underneath a bed. And so what recommendations do we have on like what kind of underbed storage can we expect? Do we put the dresser underneath? Can I loft? What does that look like?
So, with this space on whether or not like you could put your dresser under your bed, I think Don really touched base on that. It really just depends on when you walk into that room and if the beds are bumped or not. It will give you that idea. Definitely if you are able to unbunk them, you can definitely put that dresser under there, under your beds. And it will give you that more floor space if that's something that you're looking for. And then also, even if they are bunks, it really depends on the room when you walk in and the way those beds are set up. But even if you were to get like a trunk or even the like the ottomans, those will definitely fit under there. The ottomans that have that top that lift up, that gives you extra storage space to put like towels or anything like that inside of there, to give you more like I said, storage to place things.
And I will say in all of our first year halls, with the exception of Cedar, the beds can be adjusted. And so you can lift them higher, you can lift them lower. Cedar, they are at one level. So for Cedar, what I recommend, if you know those like plastic totes that are designed for under the bed, that's about the size you can fit in your Cedar ones. And then Cedar does have, you know, again, the closet and the dresser and everything. What I really recommend though is, you know, play around with the space, make it your home. You don't have to keep it the way we have it set up. We set it up for what we believe is optimal living. But as you and your roommate or roommates start to get the flow of things, your day to day, you're going to find that some things work better than others. The one thing I highly recommend is when you're thinking of your micro fridges and where you want to place those, maybe put it in like a center area of the room. You don't want to put it right next to someone's bed, because if you get thirsty at 2 o'clock in the morning and you go to open that and that light shines right in their face, may not be the best thing for your roommate. So try to find a central place for your micro fridge, and then don't be afraid to reach out to facilities. We've had instances this past year where people are like, we want to rearrange, we want to do this, but we don't know what would work best. Our facilities team and even our Res Life team are happy to go into the space and talk about some options with you, some layout, play around with the furniture a little bit and help you find the ideal space for you.
And I know it can sometimes feel frustrating where we're saying now it's difficult to plan over the summer, like just wait till you get here. But these students are going to be living with other students, and so it's probably good to get both of them here. We're also going to be doing some Target runs on that Saturday after move-in day. We'll have the residents like welcome luau and then some shuttles that'll run up and down to Target just down the street so that students will be able to purchase anything else that they may or may not need. Because Target tells you what you need.
Yes.
What about bed risers? We do get asked a lot about bed risers.
I recommend bed risers. I just think they're a great idea. The only time you can't use a bed riser is on a bunk bed. We ask that our bunk beds don't have the risers on them. And then if you are to buy bed risers, just make sure they're the ones that don't have the electrical outlets in them. We don't permit those on campus, but we do permit the traditional bed risers. The square ones tend to work best for our campus beds. But if you have specific questions or if you wanna show us which ones you're thinking of buying, we're more than happy to run them by our facilities team. The bed risers, the only other restriction is they can't be higher than 12 inches. And so just make sure your bed risers are not taller than that. And we don't allow lofting on campus. But again, that's where we can come in and say, okay, let's play around with some ideas. Let's look at how we can best utilize this space.
Good segue to maybe some of the other things that we can't bring. We do provide fridges and microwaves, but we've got, I mean, I could get really hungry and want another fridge in there, but what can we bring and not bring?
So we do provide the micro fridge, so residents cannot bring refrigerators, mini fridges, freezers, or microwaves. They can bring some cooking material, so they can bring a hot plate as long as it's not magnetic and not the coiled one that burns red. Crock pots are permitted, George Foreman grills are permitted. Some of the common things that we see on move-in day, which I know are really popular, but are just not permitted. Toaster ovens and air fryers.
Those were very popular this year. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, I'm
But
sorry.
Default makes a mean meal.
They do.
They do.
And it's perfect with the unlimited meal plan. There's always food options. But please don't bring the air fryers. I know people love them. I love my air fryer, but we just can't have them on campus. But like I said, George Foreman's, they still make George Foreman's, right?
I hope so. I used to
Yeah.
love a burger
Yeah.
on those in my
George
residence hall.
Foreman's, like
The hot
skillets,
plates. Mhm.
hot plates, all of that.
Rice
And
cookers.
rice
Yes,
cookers.
rice cooker,
Okay.
yes.
But air fryers, toaster ovens, visible heating elements, and Instapots or pressure cookers are not permitted in our halls. But we do have the community kitchens, which you can
Mhm.
also.
And then while we're kind of talking about what to bring, what not to bring in storage options, I
Mhm.
know some of our rooms have closet doors and some of them do not.
Mhm.
And so what do we recommend to bring or not to bring
Mhm.
with that?
So Lewis House does not have closet doors, the same with Abear Hall. And so what I recommend if you want a little privacy in your closet, just a small tension rod and like a single pane curtain.
Mhm.
Those tend to work best. We see that a lot with residents. If you do have a closet door, if you're going to get over the closet, you know, the storage for your shoes or for racks, just make sure it's not a metal or wood, it's the cloth wrap overs. We don't permit anything that could permanently damage our closet doors. And so just make sure it's the cloth ones, which are easy to find and they just wrap around like those metal ones, but there's no damage. And just make sure you secure it with the knots and not command strips or permanent tape or anything.
Ooh, command strips and permanent tape. What do we say for hanging all those cute fairy lights and pictures and everything?
So, that's a great question. So I don't know if everybody's familiar with like the putty, like, you can find it at Walmart, you definitely can find like Home Depot, those type of stores, Lowe's. But the putty is going to be perfect. That's actually the option that we completely recommend. Really, there's no other option other than that because it just will not tear that paint off when it's time for them to depart and move on for winter or summer. So, we definitely recommend the putty.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else we can think of?
Painter's tape also works pretty well here. If you are gonna use the putty, please use the gray ones. The blue ones sometimes stain
Mm.
walls.
Okay.
Good to know.
And then the painter's tape works really well
Okay.
on our walls as well.
Well, on July 31st, our team will be coming back together to go over all of what our families can expect on move-in day. Because we know that that's a big question that people are asking about now. Let's get a reminder, when is move-in and when does it start?
Friday, August 23rd, 9 a.m. is the first slot.
And so families will receive a time slot. Have they received that yet, or when can they expect to receive that?
No, you're good.
If,
Because
if
you're-
your student has already selected a room, they would have received that email this morning. We will be sending them out every Monday. And so if they select a room this week, they'll receive that next Monday.
All right, and our first roar up is June 27th and 28th. And I love when I hear about students meeting somebody else there and they're like, this is my new roommate that I want to have. And so let's talk about what it means to make room changes now over the summer, and then maybe what it looks like when they get here and they, find somebody else at the Disney trip and want a room with them.
So currently for the summer, you all still have access to your portal to be able to switch your roommates. So if you come on the 27th and you're like, oh, I really like this person, I really want to room with them. We have the same lifestyle, same sleep schedule, great. So what you guys can do is you can go into the portal, you have the information to the people that you currently live with, and you guys can have that discussion. Definitely recommend having a conversation with them and saying, hey, we mesh well. We're thinking about living together. How do you feel about switching and making a switch? So right now over the summer, you do have the option to do that yourself. Once the school year starts, 2 weeks into the semester, that's when you all can start setting appointments with Dawn and myself to then have some room changes. But we also recommend that you utilize your RAs first. We'll talk a lot about that when you guys come in for Roar Up, to discuss like what that looks like, talking to your RAs, maybe where they live, and how to access them. But we definitely will be here and be available those after those 2 weeks, so you guys can set those appointments to make room changes.
I mean, it's a big adjustment thinking about like used to my own stuff, my own space, and now all of a sudden I'm sharing it with potentially somebody that I've never met or I'm just meeting for the first time or only chatted with. And so great resources with the RAs. They're trained on having those conversations. Great resources with our professional staff, trained on those conversations. Like we like to see them work it out first. Another big question, and I know that we're getting some really good Q&A that we want to make sure that we've got time to address as well. But a lot of times we get asked about hurricanes, what that means for our residential students. And so let's kind of just touch a little bit on some high notes, like what our families may need to know now when it comes to hurricanes.
Yeah, and so, as someone who came to Flagler from up north, and never experienced a hurricane before, I understand it can be scary. Over the summer, each student will receive a invitation to complete a form, severe weather form, and that's an opportunity for them to sit down with their family members, to sit down and think, okay, if a mandatory evacuation does occur, what steps do I have to ensure that I'm getting somewhere outside of the mandatory evacuation zone? My family knows that I have a plan. I'm not just going to wing it. The college does provide a lot of resources in terms of hurricane preparedness. And so we try to bring in experts that will talk about, okay, what is the difference between a hurricane watch and a hurricane warning? What does St. Augustine look like during a hurricane? But the big thing I like to stress is we as a college follow the local protocol. If we believe that there is going to be fear of flooding or high winds, we will take all the necessary steps to send out that information and to prepare the campus. And so good thing about hurricanes, you know about them about a week or two ahead of time. It doesn't just pop up. And so during hurricane season, which has started and it goes through October, I recommend checking the news, keeping track of storms that may be forming in the Atlantic, and just asking what would I do if one did come near St. Augustine? Am I going to evacuate back home? Are my parents going to buy me a flight, or am I going to just go inland a few miles and get a hotel? Am I going to go with my roommate so I know who I'm with, or what are the most important things I need to take with me? And so if you are bringing important documents, social security card, passport, birth certificate, make sure those are on your items to pack and bring with you, and understand it's okay to leave some things behind. You don't have to pack up your whole room. And generally, campus reopens 3 or 4 days after the storm has passed. And so just making sure that in your plan, you know what you're doing for those 3 or 4 days. And if you don't know, or you've never experienced a hurricane before, come talk to us, come talk to our safety and security team, because we're more than happy to help calm you down, walk you through the steps. We're all going through it together. And I promise you, after 4 years here at Flagler, you're gonna see hurricane be like, oh, it's just another part of life in Florida.
Well, just because of our technical difficulties, I'm gonna shift a little bit so we can see some of these Q&As, and then we'll be sure to share some important dates with everybody. But our first question that we've got is, they completed housing forms back in the spring and still waiting to receive that assigned room, checking email and nothing showing. So any recommendations on that?
So, one, I just want to make sure that they're checking their Flagler email. That's where we send all communication. And then if they still can't find it, if they send us an email at residencelife@flagler.edu, we can follow up with them. We can check all our communication logs, and really help them find where they are in the process. Maybe they haven't, and we see this a lot, they have not clicked the submit button, so their application is showing up as incomplete. So it wouldn't send over to the housing selection. And so if they can't find anything in their Flagler email, please send us an email, so that we can help work with them one-on-one.
And then just to kind of follow up on this, students can still select their room right now, but what do they have to have completed in order to do that?
Their housing application must be submitted. If they're an incoming student, they receive a link to that after they've deposited and get their Flagler credentials. If they're a returner student, they need to have paid the housing deposit and then sign the housing contract in order for the application to allow them to select their housing.
And once again, that email is,
residencelife@flagler.edu.
all right. We've talked about RAs. Is there any way that students can get in touch with the RAs now, or what does that communication look like?
So at the moment, for over the summer, RAs are vacationing. They're enjoying their summer. So once the incoming students come on the 23rd of August, that's when the RAs will be available. So currently over the summer, if you have any questions about your roommate, or you have any questions about how to even get involved with Residence Life, what does that look like? How do I meet my RA? You can reach out to us at Residence Life, and we'll have that conversation with you. We'll just talk to you about possibly who your RA will be. We have an idea of where they're going to be, who's going to be over which residence halls. But once they get here in August, they're going to train first, and then the 23rd, they're going to be completely available for you all. But there is one RA per each hall. So even in Ponce, there's an RA on the lobby, first floor, second floor, third floor. And then every other residence hall, you will have an RA on your floor. FEC looks a little different because it's 4 floors per tower, but you will, 2 floors in each tower will have 1 RA. So you guys will have a lot of people there to support you. We have 26 RAs, so we have plenty of RAs across the campus to be there to assist you.
So, good question that came in, because you had mentioned FEC and students logging in to eRes Life, and they're able to see that some rooms have 1 person in them, or some aren't available, or things like that. Talk to us about what it's going to be like to live in FEC. Is that too far? Is it a disadvantage to live there? Are there singles there? What does that look like?
Go ahead.
So I was going to touch base on about if it's too far. FEC is not too far. You still can walk to main campus in about 5 to 6 minutes. It is not too far. You get to pass the beautiful houses, the tennis courts, so you have a little bit of a scenery as you're walking to main campus. Even you can stop and grab a cup of coffee. So there are plenty of things that you can stop. There are plenty of things you can stop to see and grab as you walk towards main campus, if you're coming to Keenan Hall or if you're going to D Hall. So definitely not too far. I did miss the rest of the question.
Yeah, and so it looks like there's in eRes Life where there's 2 spots open, and so if
Okay.
I select one of those beds, does that mean that that is a single for me?
No, that does not mean it's a single. Someone can still place themselves in that room. So remember, we're still open. People are still filling out their contracts. People still paying their deposit. So just give people some time because they still have a little bit more time left to place themselves. So that does not mean that it will be a single room. That just means that you have a new person that you just might meet for this new year.
And at FEC, there are a lot of perks down there. And so we do have a food option down there. And so we have one of our pods, which stands for provisions on demand. And so you can use a meal swipe there to get a breakfast, lunch, or dinner. But then you can also use your dining dollars. It's sort of like a convenience store. And so you could buy snacks, you could buy drinks, all different things. We also have the Common Greens, which is a nice outdoor greens area, which we do events on, or people just go out and study. Our campus rec has our dock down there, and they also have a fitness center. They host pickleball out there. And then the big thing is if you are bringing a vehicle, FEC is connected to our parking garage, which is where our residential students park. And so you're right there with your vehicle. And there's just a lot of perks of it. Like I said, I live down there. I love the views. The rooms have these amazing windows. The building is also historic. And so the FEC buildings used to be the headquarters for the Florida East Coast Railroad. And so when we talk about history on our campus, it's not just a Ponce Hall, that's a historic building. These buildings are also about 100 years old. They've been renovated. And so we have more history than just one building on the campus.
And you said it's about a 5 to 6 minute walk
Mhm.
from FEC, not too bad at all. And then you touched a little bit on how there's the pod down there at FEC, but there's also a kitchen
Mhm.
that's in the hospitality suite. Where is the other kitchen?
Lewis House on the 3rd floor. And the Lewis House one is only open to Lewis residents, but the Abear Commons one is open to any residential student on campus.
Okay, and then other facilities, so laundry.
Mhm. So all our residential halls have laundry. They're all free, so no quarters or no swiping a card or anything. Ponce, there are some on every floor. We do have one on the 2nd floor of Cedar, one on the 1st floor of FEC, and one on the 3rd floor of Lewis. And so we ensure that there's about the same number of machines per resident in each of our halls. Like I said, it is free. The only thing you need to provide are the laundry detergent and the dryer sheets. And we do recommend bringing actual detergent and not the little pods. The pods don't tend to work that well in some of the machines that we use. So please bring liquid detergent. And any dryer sheet will work.
So as much as we want to continue bringing our dirty laundry home for somebody else to take care of it for us, there are the options that are on campus. But when our students do want to fly home, what's the best way for shuttles or different things like that?
Mhm.
Oh, so like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so do we offer
so
shuttles
We
to?
do, so I'm sorry, are you asking like around campus? Or are you asking like, or do we
To
have
the
shuttles to the
airports.
airport? So I'm not really privy to if we offer it, so I do apologize. I know we have a shuttle service through security, but I'm not privy to the shuttle service that goes to the airport, so.
Yeah, every once in a while, we will offer a shuttle around big holidays, so such as winter break or Thanksgiving. And then we'll post them in Saints Connect. And so if your students have not explored Saints Connect yet with their Flagler credentials, it is a platform that has all our events, all our clubs, and then also this is where they'll sign up for those shuttles. It's also where they'll see our target runs. It'll see anything that's provided for them. And so it's a great way to get connected. And then we do try to listen to feedback of when are the best times. We don't have on demand like, oh, my flight leaves at 10, I need a shuttle at 8, but we try to find the times in which the most students are utilizing it to bring them there and then bring them back. But if you don't wish to utilize the service, there are multiple options. What I see a lot actually are students posting on Saints Connect, hey, who's going to this airport? Can I get a ride? Uber and Lyft are always a great option. And then there are some shuttle companies in St. Augustine that you can contact. The closest airport is Jacksonville. About 50-minute drive. But you can also fly out of Orlando. Orlando's about an hour and a half, or depending on where you live, I know some people actually use the Daytona airport. It's much smaller. It's a regional airport, but they're about 30-40 minutes away.
Questions about when and how to connect with roommates.
So currently if you have selected your room and you have gone on your Flagler and you see that person that either says my roommate or my suite mate, because some people want to connect with their suite mates as well, you could go ahead and click on that person's name and their contact, if their profile should populate for you, and then you will be able to have access to their information. So you could go ahead and reach out to them. If you're not that comfortable calling, texting, you can send them an email, introducing yourself. That's an easy way to reach out to someone, give them a little bit of information, maybe 2 or 3 sentences about who you are, what you like, and see if they want to connect over the phone. Sometimes I recommend that to some students who call in and ask, because it can be a little nerve-wracking to just reach out to someone you've never met. So definitely click on their name, and their profile will pop up for you, and you'll have their information.
And students completed in the housing form, preferences for living, but then they also can select a room. Are there any other forms that they would have been sent?
No, we did ask everyone to fill out a roomies profile on eResLife. And the benefit to that is if you are looking for a roommate, that's where you can really compare a lot of those answers to. You can see what people are interested in terms of hobbies. People post pictures of themselves, so you can really get to know them that way. But we on the back end utilize those questions that you answered. If you don't self-select and you are manually assigned, we utilize those to best find a roommate for you.
And how can someone see if their room is suited?
So if you go to the housing overview, the room, if it's say for example 333-335, it is suited. So if there's a dash and a second room number, that's how you'll determine if it's suited or not. We do have some suited in Lewis, or I'm sorry, in Ponce, and some non-suited. FEC, none of the rooms are suited, and then Lewis and Cedar, every room is suited in there.
We have a couple athletes that have already been in touch with their coaches about moving in early because they're fall sports. And so when will that be solidified?
We work with the athletic coaches to determine when we can permit fall athletes to come back. And a lot of that has to do with NCAA regulations. It also has to do with when our housekeeping staff and our facility staff can reopen the halls. And so we'll work closely with the coaches through the next month and a half, and we will let people know from residencelife@flagler.edu your approved early move-in date. So if you're talking with your coaches and they say, we think it may be around this date, please hold off on purchasing any tickets or making traveling plans until you receive official communication from us. The communication from us will be your ticket onto campus.
I think we're going to be diving into this topic a little bit more further, but can you touch on safety, security, access to the residence halls? Who can access them? Is there a curfew? All that fun stuff.
So we have a great safety and security team here on campus, and they're always walking around. So they're very approachable. They have an office in Ponce in the Rotunda, and then they also have an office in the Commons. So it's kind of on the A-Bear side, but it's kind of in the middle between FEC and A-Bear. You guys will see their office, especially if you need to go in there for like to get a new ID, because that's where all that fun stuff happens. And even like your parking decal will happen in that Commons office as well. But safety and security. So I'm sorry, I keep drawing blanks. But so for access to your residence hall, the only people that can access those residence halls are the people who live in there. So that's why when I mentioned getting your ID at that office in the Commons. So when they give you access, they are looking at what residence hall you are assigned to. So if you're assigned to Ponce, only you will be you and the people who live in Ponce will have access. You will not be able to get into Lewis, and you will not be able to get into Cedar. The only way you can get in there is if you have a friend who comes and lets you in, and you will stay with that friend throughout the duration of your visit in that residence hall. And it's just to keep everyone safe. So we ask that if you're visiting, you stay with your friend who is visiting you throughout the duration.
And although we don't have a curfew, we do have guest hours. And so if you are visiting a friend in a different room or a different hall, you have until midnight. And then after midnight, you would have to be registered as an overnight guest. This is for respect of your room. I'm sure you don't want your roommates having people over 24/7, and also for your roommate as well. And then in the evenings, starting about 8 p.m., we do have desk workers at the desks in all of our halls that are checking in people. And so as someone walks in, they're checking the ID, they're making sure they live there. And if they don't live there and they're with a guest being escorted, they're just tracking where they're going. So we know who's going in and out of the halls. But you are welcome to explore and leave at any point. We just ask, again, you have your ID, and that if it's after midnight, you're registered, even if it's in your neighbor's room. We want to make sure we have that respect for everyone in the room.
What about a tea kettle or Keurig machines?
You can have a tea kettle, you can have a Keurig. We recommend going to our Flagler Essential Target Registry. And the reason being, we can have Keurigs, so we have to make sure that the right ampage for our residence halls. And so we have all the information on there. Because we don't want you to buy a really fancy Keurig machine and then it not work in the residence halls. And so we tend to recommend just a standard Keurig here. Don't buy those mini ones they advertise to the college students. They don't really work well on our campus. But also it works really well, the Black & Decker K-Cup ones.
I see those a lot in the rooms.
Yeah, those work really well. And then yes, a tea kettle would be approved.
What about toilet paper and soap? Let's get to some essentials here.
Yes.
Yes, for sure.
Are they provided? Do they need to buy them?
So you definitely want to provide your own toilet tissue, all of those toiletries, your paper towels, your toothbrushes, your toothpaste, and it's not like walking into a hotel, unfortunately. We don't have the soap or the conditioner or the shampoo waiting right there. You might get a hand sanitizer from us, but that's about it. So you want to make sure you make a list. So I always recommend that, because that's something I did before I went off to college. I made a list all the way down to like if I wanted like hairpins and bows. So you want to just take the time to make a list of all those small things you sometimes forget to pack. When you go out of town, you're like, oh man, I left my favorite scrunchie. So you want to make sure you just make that list, but definitely you want to provide those things, because unfortunately we do not provide that. Our housekeeping, they only go in during the summer and during the winter, so they do not go to restock or to place any toiletries in the rooms.
What about office facilities? Are there printers, copy machines, things like that?
Our library has all of that for our residents to utilize. They are given printer funds to use. So to print, to copy, black and white, color, all of that. They have scanners, so anything they need, they can use at our library.
So quite a few questions here going back to roommates. We've got some that are like, wait a minute, is there like a roommate portal, like a little pool of people that I can select from? Can I see who's in a room first before I select that room? If I know I've got a roommate, do I have to create a roommate group?
Mhm. So, to answer those questions a few different ways. One, if you're just going through and you're browsing and you don't necessarily know someone specific you want to live with, you can look for people in one of two ways. So the Room Ease profile tab, that's where you can search for roommates, on eResLife. You can also go through the available rooms, and if you see a room where a bed is like crossed off and red, if you just toggle your mouse over there, it'll give you the name of the person who's in that bed. I know a lot of people have been using the Class of 2028 Instagram page, and also Saints Connect as well. There's a whole tab looking for roommates on there. If you find someone you want to live with, we recommend creating roommate groups. And the reason being is we don't do it often, but every once in a while we may have to consolidate rooms to make space. And if you're in a roommate group, it's not going to consolidate you. And so for Shay and I want to live together, but we don't put ourselves in a roommate group and all of a sudden there's a consolidation. There's a slight chance we may be moved to different rooms, and we don't want that for anyone who wants to live with someone. So I highly recommend creating roommate groups, finding out who you want to live with, utilizing the resources such as Roomies, Class 2028 Instagram, or Saints Connect to find people. And then also when you're here at Aurora, it's a great opportunity to meet new people, a great opportunity to try to meet your roommate if you just went with a random individual, get to know each other. We see a lot of people at Aurora plan their Aurora to make sure them and their future roommate are there together, so they can also spend the night together, and start to have those conversations of what is it going to be like to live together.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of perks to coming to Aurora. Students will be able to see their schedule if they went through all of those steps. A little plug, that's gonna be next week's webinar, what it means to do schedules and stuff, but they'll be able to potentially meet some other people, stay overnight in the residence hall, hear from a variety of offices, really take more of that deep dive in. And so if schedules and finances permit, we definitely recommend coming to Aurora and really starting that Flagler experience. If there are more questions that people have really specific to their roommate, they can email residencelife@flagler.edu. It may be helpful just to kind of do a one-on-one conversation for some of those. I know we're getting close to the end, and so I want to make sure that we're getting to as many questions as we can. Another perk I can never forget is that students will get their IDs at Roar Up. However, we also will have the ID station set up during move-in day at our one-stop shop. That'll be here in our student center. TV, cable, what do we think?
A lot of people bring TVs. We don't have cable on campus, but students are free to bring TVs. A lot of people put them on their dressers or they put them on their desks. You can't mount them to the walls. So if you do bring a TV, make sure you bring the legs or a TV stand. But honestly, we're seeing a lot of students not bringing TVs anymore and shifting more to tablets or laptops. If you are going to bring a TV, I also recommend connecting with your roommate. Because we don't want our 4 TVs in one room. So but yes, you can bring TVs, and if you bring a smart TV, we will have our IT department here during our one-stop shop for move-in, where you can register the TV so it can connect to our Wi-Fi. So any devices that use Wi-Fi, so video, PlayStation, Xboxes, smart TVs, Rokus, any of that need to be registered with our IT department, just to make sure there's not these random devices on our network. And once it's registered, you can use it within your hall. We don't have Ethernet ports, and so everything will have to be Wi-Fi that you bring in.
So that's another good question that we have here is IT is available to help our students. Support at flagler.edu. And so if any of our students are having trouble accessing email or trying to figure out how to get into that stuff or what they may or may not need when they get here, reaching out to them will be the best. The target Flagler list of what to bring, what not to bring, that's going to be on our Residence Life website. The students received that link and that video in their email from the Roar Up orientation newsletter this morning. And then let's say that, everybody's an Amazon shopper. And so can they send things to Flagler?
They can, so each student is provided a campus mailbox number. They will be emailed that. We can start accepting packages on August 12th. And so our mailroom has asked nothing comes before August 12th, please. But students can reserve packages, and families, you can also send letters to them. When they receive a package or a letter, they will get an email to their Flagler email saying, hey, you have a package, please come pick it up. And they'll just have to come bring that email and their ID to pick up their package. And then, yeah, so please start sending things. August 12th is the perfect time. And that gives our mailroom about 10 or so days to organize it prior to move-in. You will have to pick it up at the mailroom. They don't deliver to residence hall rooms. So if you are ordering anything, you can also, what's great with our registries, you can do target pickup for when you arrive here. And so if you're traveling and you don't necessarily want to fill up the car with stuff such as toilet paper, paper towels, some of that stuff you can get here. You can do an online pickup and pick it up right here at our Target. Our location does have the curbside, you park, they bring it out to you. So some of those things on the registry, just pick up here.
Okay. I think we've got time for maybe 2 more questions. But again, we will absolutely be available via email, residencelife@flagler.edu for any of those other questions. All right, I want you to say true or false. No boys allowed in the female dorms and no girls allowed in the male dorms, right?
Fall.
And
That
so
is a
guests
bold one.
are guests.
Yeah.
Guests are guests, and we still ask all of our residents to check in those
Mhm.
guests.
Mhm.
And then let's go through some important dates that
Mhm.
our family members should know about for the rest of the summer.
Yeah, so June 26th is the last day of housing self-selection. So after that, if there are roommate changes or anything, we're more than happy to accommodate that. We'll just have to do it on the back end. July 1st, that is when housing contracts will be emailed out. So please make sure that they're checking their Flagler emails. It's coming from DocuSign, and it is just our terms and conditions of living on campus. July 31st is our webinar on move-in and learning all about that fun stuff. And then August 23rd is our move-in day. We're really excited about it. We're excited to welcome everyone home, and for everyone to see the campus if they haven't at Aurora or admissions tours prior, and to really get that key and move into their residence hall.
And I'm kind of loving this question that somebody's already looking toward the end of the year.
Mhm.
And so do students have to move out at the end of every semester or at the end of the academic year?
Fully move out will be the end of the academic year. They can leave stuff here during winter break, which our halls will close on Friday, December 13th at 11 a.m. So please book flights and everything accordingly. And then May 8th, which is a Friday at 11 a.m. is the move out date where they have to be completely moved out. If they're taking summer courses or anything, we do offer some summer school housing, but they will have to transition to that housing. It's in a select building. And then our academic calendar has all our dates of when we reopen for spring term. So please check those out, because what I would hate is for someone to book a flight on a wrong day. It's also just great to know the academic calendar, when are finals coming up, when is fall break, when is spring break, and so you all can start planning vacations around that.
All right, so our next webinar in this series will be June 19th at 6 p.m. and we will be with our CASE office, which is the Center for Advising and Core Experience, kind of pulling back the curtain of what it means to be advised and register for classes, what that process looks like for our students, and then I'm sure our families will have lots of questions for that one as well. Keep an eye on our family portal. That's where we'll be posting the schedule for all of these and making sure that you've got all the registration links. But these will go all the way through August 6th, where you will get to meet the president. And so we're gonna start that month meeting him and getting to know him a little bit. But if you've got any questions, email and phone number for Residence Life.
residencelife@flagler.edu, and have our new phone number. We just got a new phone
A
number.
new- So we are ready for your calls, which is
it
gonna
on
be 904.
904, I have it right here,
Okay.
brand new,
Yeah.
904-819-6459.
459 are those three important numbers to remember. But we hope to see you at Roar Up. We still have lots of spaces available for our upcoming sessions, and we thank you all so much for joining us. Have a great night.
You have a great night.